Good evening. Welcome to Investigator News, and I'm Ellie, and we got William here, both of us. William, you're taller than I am today.
I'm
Oh,
here.
you're just taller. Sad
I'm tall.
news. Toby Keith passed away yesterday. I know everybody's passing around solo cups. Um, yeah, I didn't. I guess. I guess he did a song on solo cups. I'm not big on country music, so. And hello to Susan, and good to see Susan here, and probably Linda a little bit. Uh,
So
so,
he
go
wrote a song called uh, talking about the red, white, and blue, and courtesy of the red, white, and
Yeah, I
blue
remember
as
that one.
a response to 9/11.
Yeah, okay. Now I read something somewhere here a while back that when he after 9/11 he just sat down and scribbled the whole song out. He didn't have no problem even thinking about what the words were going to be. He just knew. Uh,
Well, his dad lost an eye in the war, and his dad flew a flag in front of his house till the day he died. And then after 9/11, his thing was, we're going to put a boot in the tail of whoever did that, basically. And he's a lot more poetic than I am.
So before we move on to this communism thing, I want to get through some of the world wars going on. Now, there's a terrorist bombing campaign that killed 28 in Pakistan on the day before a heated election. Now, this always happens, William, I swear. Every time it happens in South America, too. Every time a third world country is what I want to call them. I'm probably wrong on that. Um, is going to have an election, all of a sudden there's a bombing or an assassination or uh, oh, civil
It's a
eruptions,
false flag. It's a
riots.
false flag to distract the people.
Yeah, they sure do. And so that's pretty much Pakistan. So we're going to be watching them over the next few days. And like it says, it killed 28 people. And this is just to try to stop the election from happening. Now,
And remember that Iran has been bombing Pakistan and fomenting problems in Pakistan as well. So,
yeah,
where this bombing came from is probably a bad place, likely started in Tehran.
and as we all know, the border resolution is just not going to make it, folks. I just briefly want to say it was a Chuck Schumer write up. Um, it was all about what they could give um, to Ukraine, not so much to Israel. Also, to be able to give aid to Islamics as under the guise of climate change, billions of dollars. And and then I think I've lost my train of thought here. um, I got to get back to my bookmark here. Um,
So yeah, they were trying to get extra money. They've already had a whole bunch, by the way,
yeah, and he's blaming a
to
lot
push
of
climate change in the Middle East.
and Biden is blaming the Congress, and he said, "Show some spine." Well, who's talking? Did you hear his speech the other day, William? He told a story about somebody that has been dead since '96. He said, "Yeah, I just talked to him."
Yeah.
Hillary thought that she was talking to Martha Washington when they were in the White House. I'm starting to wonder why. Maybe that's why Melania had the priest come in and do an exorcism on the White House.
Well, I'm prior military. I have to respect the presidency, and I really do.
Okay, you respect all
But
disrespect.
but this guy, this president, is making a mockery of it.
Yeah. Well,
And difficult to follow.
looking around, let's see if I, time after time when Camilla Harris goes around the countries, to the different countries and world leaders, and as well as um, Biden, the world leaders, what they're telling their media over there is there's no president in charge of the United States. And you got
Well,
to think
actually,
on
there is,
that.
but
There,
his name's Jake Sullivan, and he wasn't elected, and he
um,
functioned from the standpoint of a group rather than himself. He's just the last of the thought group
now
to make
with
policy.
Biden, if you look back though, William, in his early years as senator, he was strong. I mean, he would be out there. He was barking lies, and he was still in speeches, but he was still right in there. And even during the Obama years. Now, a lot of the world leaders did not like Obama. China wouldn't even give him the red carpet. China told him get off the back of the plane. You know.
Well, Indonesia's right there in the Straits of Malacca, and Indonesia's never been, great. There's never been a great love affair with China, especially considering Indonesia's Islamic and China's, communist.
And I even when Obama got in, I didn't really pay attention. I thought, okay, it's cool that we have a black president. It was due. It was due. But I never knew that he just never had the experience of being he was bad as a senator. Come to find out, when you talk to the people up around Chicago, he wasn't that good. So he was picked and chosen. And I think it's only because they were starting to get fed up with Hillary. Um, but we probably get on to that in a little bit.
Well,
Now,
we were given three choices, right? We were given the choice of Romney and Obama
mm-mm.
or Hillary.
No, that's a definite no.
And the American people decided that, and now keep in mind the patriarchy they talk about all the time in feminism, it actually comes from the Democratic Party because 99% of the wealth in the United States is held by Democratic donors. That's people with at least 2 degrees, with a master's.
Mm-hmm.
And the Bezoses and the Gates, and well, you get the whole thing. So, so you've got a female or a black man that is finally up. Now the donors who had the most money to run, who are they going to choose first? Are they going to choose a black man because he's part of the patriarchy, or a white woman that's going to break the black?
And Bernie Sanders wasn't the choice. And even though all the voters, they were all big for Bernie Sanders, they gave him a couple of vacation homes and a couple cars and a bunch of money, and he said, "Okay, I'll wait my turn." And they really thought Hillary would get it. But Bernie Sanders came out this week. I was wondering when he was going to come back out. And he said, this country's running great, folks. Yeah, the food prices are up a little bit. And yeah, the checkbooks are tight. But all in all, the country is running wonderfully.
So Bernie, Hillary, and Obama, all of them are the easiest buy-off on earth.
Mm-hmm.
You pull want the money, they'll say what you want them to say.
Yeah.
And Biden's no different.
No, they're even Chuck Schumer or Schiff or I think the only one that stands their ground would be Pelosi. They send her to beat people up, I think.
Well, Manchin will stand up against them from West Virginia, but that's about it, yeah.
So
Pelosi, that's because she wants the presidency. She doesn't care what gets in her way.
Yeah.
Remember, she took her entire family and flew them to Europe during the situation that the Democrats had with Trump, and she was going to take the presidency away from him. That was what she wanted to do. Get Trump out of the way, push Mr. Pence out of the running, and she was third in line for the presidency. She's never given up on the idea, by the way.
No, I'm surprised she doesn't put herself in. So anyway, me and you talked about this one earlier on, about a missing helicopter that was found in Southern California this morning. But I think the search and rescue operation continues for the 5 Marines on board. This was a CH-53E Super Stallion. It was reported overdue to the Marine Corps Air Station in Myanmar Tuesday night. The helicopter departed from Creech Air Force Base near Las Vegas en route to Miramar in San Diego area. Now, from what we've been able to find out, it was due to the weather. They have had some fierce winds, and this is about the time it disappeared. So another helicopter down, another helicopter. Wow.
But it's not the Osprey, the V-20.
No.
V-22 Osprey, and it's not the Chinooks, and it's not a Black Hawk, which we've seen before. This helicopter is, if you remember back in Vietnam, they had the Jolly Green Giants. Those are the big one-rotor aircraft. They were monstrous, and they could lift anything. They could go almost anywhere in Vietnam. And they called them Jolly Green Giants. Well, this is the naval variant that's been manufactured recently. It's not Vietnam vintage, but it's the naval variant, and they use those for long-range reconnaissance. They use them for long-range sonar dipping so that they can look for subs, and they use it for long-range search and rescue. So it's a very stable, it's a very, very good aircraft. It's an amazingly good aircraft. So I wouldn't expect it to have mechanical failure. I believe it's a 3-engine aircraft too as well. It's not going to have mechanical failure. This is it's been a great airframe through time. It had a number of people
stout
to match a crew, right? So they had 2 pilots, an engineer, probably 1 window gunner, and a 3rd guy. And so what they're going to be looking at, I think, into the future, you and I discussed this as I worked myself through the details, as she gave me one piece of information at a time, that it's going to be, it was very, very bad weather, right, with this atmospheric river. So incredible winds, high amounts of moisture. So these air crews are designed to stay at what's called NOE, Nap of the Earth Operations. Okay, this size aircraft is really used during search and rescue operations. And into any crazy place to pick up their downed airmen. All right. The guys that are in these aircraft, and it was probably the fifth person in that aircraft is probably a medic, by the way. Or a water rescue guy. So they're supposed to stay under NOE in normal training. That snap of the earth. Well, if you have these high winds coming up over the top of these peaks, and you're going to fly between a couple peaks, maybe in a just a little valley between the ridges, right? As you go over the top of the mountain passes, and there's a sudden downdraft, and you're close to the ground, trying to stay below radar, and there's a sudden, hideous downdraft, and you can't climb faster than the downdraft's coming down. You're going to go into the ground. And we've seen this in the past with Black Hawks in Utah going down in the snow together. We've seen this kind of thing a lot, where extreme weather can cause these aircraft to go down. Now, if they were at high enough altitude, right, they'd have enough time to fly out of that microburst that was throwing the air down towards the ground at a high rate of speed, and they get out of it just like you could swim to the side of a riptide, right, and get out of a riptide and be able to regain lift. Now, if the officer that sent them, right, because these guys function by orders, sent them from the base they were at to fighter town. That's what Miramar is the Navy Fighters Weapons School. Mm-hmm. And they were supposed to function on normal training scenarios. That would be what killed them. Mm-hmm. Or did they send them with an admonition to forget the training scenarios? We want you at high altitude so that we don't have to worry about an accident in these high winds. And did the commander that sent them get full information from their weather observer?
Yeah, that was my thing. Is we don't even try to send any of our airliners into this type of weather. It just surprised me when I seen it. And then they haven't even found the guys yet. I know they found the helicopter, but they haven't found the men. They're still missing.
Yeah, it's really unfortunate, and they're going to have a hard time getting men up there because of the hideous weather. Still, it's not gone away. You can't just fly a helicopter up in the same area and expect that helicopter to stay in the air with this atmospheric river still in process.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so
they've probably spotted it from high altitude, but they can't even get low enough to see if they've got survivors.
So here a couple of weeks ago, and I was wondering, when I see Putin meeting with Kim Jong-un, I was like, oh, okay, what's up? And we kind of knew that Russia was going to help out North Korea, or North Korea was going to help out Russia. Well, I finally dug it up. And what they did is they released millions of dollars of frozen financial assets to North Korea in exchange for weapons. Now, approximately 9 million has been unfrozen. Now, I believe that, according to Russia, I believe there's like 30 million of frozen North Korean assets held in a private Russian bank or financial thing. And so he released 9 to them. So I think, to me, William, I think Putin's being careful. He's not going to give him the whole 30. He gave him 9 for some weapons. And I think he's just waiting to see what happens. Uh, they say that reported that it was basically an agreement on both of them, and it's now a cooperative effort between North Korea and Moscow now.
It probably has involved in the Moscow, North Korea, and China. So the money is so the weapons come to Russia. The money comes to North Korea, and they spend the North Korean money. People in North Korea spend their money on Chinese goods or Chinese food.
So
it's probably or energy.
Okay, let's see. Now where?
Dr. Carl.
What?
Oh, just keep going where you were going.
Okay, yeah, I'm almost to the bottom here. So the Middle East, they say, could get uglier. Yeah, I thought it was already uglier. I had to chuckle when I read that, and it was like, how many times have we heard, folks, that China, oh yeah, we're getting ready to hit Taiwan, or we were hearing Hamas was going to go after Israel, or Iran was going to do something. And we keep saying flexing of the muscles. Well, here we go again. Now, Hezbollah said they're ready to wage war on Israel. But they're not going to say when, because they're not going to let Israel know. But it'll be something like what Hamas has done. So, it's a big statement they made.
It is because they're not doing it.
So, to me, it's just like, I think this is the 3rd time that I've noticed Hezbollah say, we're going to come get you. But in the meantime, they're firing. Now, how many times is it? 180 or 190 now that they've hit our bases in Iraq and Syria?
U.S. troops, yeah, but that's not just Hezbollah. That's a whole bunch of them.
Yeah, it's a bunch of, well, that's the getting uglier over there. They don't. I liked it better when they were just throwing rocks. You remember when they were just throwing rocks at the soldiers? Well, now they've gotten a lot more serious. They say it's going to get worse. So, and not only that, but then let's see. I think I had something on Taiwan, and you had something to add to it after that. Taiwan is tracks 9 Chinese military aircraft. 5 naval ships have been deployed missiles to monitor its actions. So, and you said that they're starting to get very serious in the Philippines too.
So the Philippines are about to push back on the Chinese because they've been coming into their waters. So there are calculations being made, apparently, between Taiwan, probably Japan as well, and South Korea, the Philippines. These are the big players, we'll call them, that are nearby. There's Australia farther away. So they've been watching this whole thing with funding. Now, is the funding to Ukraine and Israel because we don't have the money? Is it because we don't have the arms? Or because we just don't want to? Now look at it from their perspective over there. They've got a big bully right next door, and they've got to consider this. We don't have to here in the United States. And at the same time, you've got Jake Sullivan over at NATO with Jens Stoltenberg, and they want more dangerous, right, to go to Ukraine, but they don't want to come up with a coherent plan. They just want the money and the arms,
Mm-hmm.
right? So if they had a plan to win, they probably wouldn't have the will to do it. So they're just trying to continue this thing on. Now Israel can win,
Mm-hmm.
but the people in the United States are saying at this point, look, we don't have a problem with Ukraine and Russia slugging it out over a border. And we don't have a problem with Gaza and Israel slugging it out over a border. But what's starting to happen is, even though these administrations tied to this one world order, right, the uniparty, are willing to send the money, the people in the United States are no longer willing to send the money because of our border.
Mm-hmm.
We're saying it's America first. It's not America after, even Haiti. America first. And that's starting to set up.
Mm-hmm.
We talked about this earlier, that eventually in this war in Ukraine, we would get to a point where they had to decide, well, are we going to keep going with the Green New Deal and climate change, or are we going to save ourselves, right, from the
I
Russians?
think they're going to save themselves grace and just work on these wars because, even they're saying Hamas is asking for a 4-month what if
Ceasefire.
yeah, there you go. It's hard to think when you hurt. So they called for a 4-month ceasefire, and I was like, no, heck no, hell no, no, because they're just going to fire upon them. They need a chance to have Iran reload them with everything they need to do this all over again. And will they wait and Hezbollah and them do it at the same time? And Netanyahu's pretty smart. So I think Israel's going to turn it down, and I think it's about over. And I get the feeling from what we're seeing in Ukraine and what I'm hearing out of Crimea is Ukraine is just about gone. That's why they need this aid. And then again, Gaza is almost gone. So what's next? Will it be our border, or is it going to be China? They're not going to be happy with either one of these wars coming to a ceasefire. I think we're just going to keep feeding them the money. I really do.
Well, you got to keep in mind, the New World Order folks in Europe, they'd be just happy for us to keep sending money and weakening ourselves by sending money to both Ukraine and Israel.
And what's reported? There was I listened to a gentleman that was talking. He's a scientist, and he's down in the U.S. government sent him down to Panama to do some scientific research. What he found was 2 migrant camps full of thousands of Chinese. And he said,
I got a number for you. I think I wrote it down. How many Chinese have come into the United States?
Oh, yeah. And he said that these are migrant camps. These are supposed to be for the migrants. Well, no, they're filling them up full of Chinese, and they're sending thousands towards our border at a time.
I think it's 360,000.
Is that alarming yet, folks? I mean, think of what's coming to our country that aren't even accountable for. I mean, there's ones that count and ones they don't.
36,000, Ellie, I'm sorry.
Okay, 36,000. So, and so Mayorkas, the interesting thing, and this is where I want to kind of change our little direction a little bit, is William told me today something that I'd forgot about a long time ago, of Mayorkas being from Cuba, and his parents were
Now, he's
communists.
not from Cuba. His parents were.
His parents were. Well, same thing. If they're
So
Cuban,
his
they're
parents,
Cuban.
his parents were quite wealthy. All
Okay,
right,
I'll let
and
you tell the story.
so
I've already blown my cover that I didn't know. Okay, go for it.
they were pro communist, right? But they're also wealthy, and it was okay to have communism as long as it didn't affect their bottom dollar. Well, they had to choose because of Castro, either the obvious thing that was coming, either go with the ideology or maintain the money and still have the ideology someplace else. Well, when Castro rolled into Havana, they were already in the United States.
Mm-hmm.
And they send their son to Ivy League schools, right? And he was raised in that ideology. We can't expect that everybody that comes into the United States is wants to be a citizen. The people that came to the United States, Mayorkas' family may have came to the United States and not got a citizenship first, right? They may have came with their money, moved to the United States, Castro rolls in, and suddenly they're refugees. Now they have
Mm-hmm.
to get,
Well,
right?
look at Omar. Omar. I'm thinking Omar, where she came from Somalia, fled. Her and her family fled to escape. Came here, and now she supports Somalia more than she does America. And
Well, her father was a warlord.
yeah,
He was the Black Hawk Down warlord.
yes. I don't know
Literally.
if you guys knew that. Her dad was part of the big Black Hawk Down. That's where I found her when I started looking into it. And I was like, oh, well, I said, well, maybe, they turned on the family. And, I kind of felt sorry for her in a way. But now I'm going to kick her all the way back to Africa, you know?
Yeah, it's sad. So
So,
anyway, in the South China Sea, these nations are starting to make the calculus. I believe that's what is starting to happen, and the reason why, one of the reasons why the I just forgot the name of the country. It's not. Oh my gosh, the Philippines. How could I forget that? So the Philippines and Taiwan
I'm rubbing off on you, William.
are closest together. They're having to make the calculation.
I'll move away from you. There you go.
If Europe and Israel is drawing down U.S. military stocks, and it's the U.S. military that's going to come to their aid, is it better for them to touch off a war with China while the U.S. has the military capacity to come to their aid, or wait until they're bone dry?
Mm-hmm.
We don't think about that in the United States because nobody's kicking our doors in right now.
Yeah.
Now, Israel just had their doors kicked in. Ukraine had their doors kicked in. And Taiwan and these Asian countries around China are waiting for their doors to be kicked in. And so they're saying, hey, what about us? And Europe's at the same time, these globalists in Europe are saying, well, if they draw down their stocks between Israel, even Asia and Ukraine, that makes America weaker. It makes our bid for the New World Order stronger.
Mm-hmm.
It makes it remember, EU right now wants Tucker Carlson sanctioned, a U.S. citizen in NATO, sanctioned for having the audacity to interview Vladimir Putin. So that's something to think about. So you've got.
Hello to Chris Early. What is that? Is that part? Is that part what? You might have to redo your question. No, that's not Larry Nichols. That's a friend of mine, William. Unfortunately, Chris, if you did not know, Larry Nichols passed away a few years ago. So I went to his funeral and was close friends with his wife. But he passed away. But no, it's not. No, not Larry. So, so
Larry's the reason William showed up.
Yeah.
Like you though.
Yeah. So, and I did, Chris, I did a lot of investigative journalism and investigated a lot of stuff for Larry Nichols. A lot of the stuff he was putting out there, I gave him the info. I've been around him for a long time. So anyway, back to what we were going over. Now, Tucker Carlson. Now they're considering him a traitor of sorts. But then, when we look into what the EU and the World Economic Forum is doing, they're all trying to push the world into global communism. Putin has been interviewed by Barbara Walters, he just said, and Stephanopoulos. So is, I think even 60 Minutes did. A whole bunch of them did it. But see, not Tucker, though.
Was it after the war started? Was it after the war?
I think he was on 60 Minutes after the war started. I'm not sure. I don't watch 60 Minutes no more. And when they bursted my bubble when I caught them in lies. So, but now you were talking, me and you were talking earlier about the EU and Nazis, Nazism. And
let's go back to NATO. So we've got Stoltenberg and Jake Sullivan from the United States. Jake Sullivan is arguably our president right now, by the way, guys. And they're trying to push the U.S. Congress to pass the bill for the money to Ukraine because they believe it's critical.
Mm-hmm.
Now, at the same time, the EU, which is basically the European Union portion of NATO, wants to sanction a U.S. citizen. Now, in contravention of the U.S. Constitution. Now, he's doing what an American citizen has the right to free speech in the United States under the Constitution. And a reporter has the right to interview anybody on any side, right? And now EU wants to sanction Tucker Carlson. So my question is the EU part of NATO still? Or do they consider themselves above NATO?
Yeah. And we're really looking at the world superpowers. And I think this last Davos, a lot of them went behind closed doors. So I was kind of putting my ear to the ground. And what I was hearing was them of trying to come together because they know the falter of Biden right now and a weak administration here. And so what they started saying is they might have to start the NATO and especially the UN might have to start imposing a lot of these rules and laws and changes to even our country on their own and override Biden and Harris. I don't know if you heard about that. I heard about this like a
Well,
week ago, but
they're terrified of the American people at this point, and they're scared of what's coming, which is, for all intents and purposes, a Trump administration. So they're doing two things at the same time. They're doing the one thing you just talked about, and at the same time, they're upping the amount of money they're using towards defense. They're not sending it to the United States. They probably won't send it to Ukraine, but at least they're bringing it up like Trump said to do 8 years ago, right? So they're trying to play both sides of the fence, hoping that Trump doesn't show up, because that's not going to be really good for the whole new world order, World Economic Forum, Atlantic Council, Green New Deal, climate change, destroy the world's production capacity thing.
yeah.
So if Trump shows up, he's going to superheat the U.S. economy.
Now, Chris made a good point. Something like what me and you are going to get into is this is all an Agenda 20 sustainable development. It's been planned for 100 years. More than that, Chris, to really go with what you're saying, when the Democrat Party formed in 1860s, something 60s, 70s, it might have been sooner than that. It was only supposed to be a one-party rule in the United States, but then the Whigs came in, and then the Republican Party after. And ever since then, they have been vowed to have a one-party rule and eventually move it into a socialism. Marxist is when Marxists came in. This is what we're basically. Used to be called Agenda 21 back in the Alex Jones early years. So go ahead, William, and if not, we can move on with.
Yeah, well, remember Brexit was happening. The monarchy was part of the joining the EU, but Brexit was the people not wanting to be part of the EU. So all that was happening. Now, if you look at Prince Philip, he was basically a Marxist. Let's just go ahead and call it what it is.
Mm-hmm.
So we've had, and in 1812, we had people from the Crown sack the White House and burn it. And then shortly thereafter, we had a civil war, and the Democratic Party was born either just prior to or just after. They have taken the place of, well, we're not going to be able to fight them on their own soil, so let's at least change their minds, right? So they go from, we're going to not win by force, but we're going to win by lie. Remember, no wars are ever truly over. They just go into states of hibernation, and then they come back.
Yeah.
And that's why we have all these regional tensions flaring into war. That's why Congo right now has tens of thousands of people from Goma just had to flee their homes because of a rebellion going on within Congo. These tensions always exist. And when there's a weak administration, it gives them basically the license for 4 years to run their courses before somebody else comes in and says, wait, whoa, what are you doing? Say that again. Maybe that's not a good idea. The United States doesn't feel that's good for the region. Stop it.
Yeah.
And that's what Everybody's
And
afraid of them right now. They've
you
got money
mentioned
to get things going or not.
you mentioned um, um, King Charles and stuff. And I really believe that's probably why when they first did the first set of the Muslims, I believe it was, I want to say Syria. I'm not sure. Um, but the first set of them, and they were peaceful Muslims, they said, but then they infiltrated, then the no go zones. And I always felt that was a trial run for bringing in them into the United States, but to start into a Marxism fascist. And even eventually, the Democrats would claim socialism. But see, now they have now. So,
Their push for the Syrian refugees was to start to break down Christianity, and therefore the West, the Western civilization will to fight for that civilization.
so
If you can't change people's minds, which they've been trying to do in Europe forever and ever, right? Not here in the United States as much as there. That's their home ground, right? They've always been busy, and if you can't beat them logically and you can't fight them physically, breed them out. We've seen this through history over and over and over again with monarchies. If you can't fight them, if you can't talk them out of it, breed them out.
yeah. So, and then as we're looking, this 2020 election was the first time I really think it came out openly that there was Marxism, there was towards fascism, and that they were a socialist party. The Democrats were. And I was very surprised. But when you said you're socialists, they're like, no, 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 we're just social programs. No, 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 that's not what they were saying. And so now they just openly say it. They're socialist.
Well,
So
Reagan came out and called them out
yeah,
because he was originally in the Democratic Party and he was the Union Guild leader of the Screenwriters Guild, right? And the Actors Guild. And he finally figured out these are all Marxists,
mm-hmm.
right? And so he went the other way, and first he went independent, then he became a Republican. But he called everybody out, and he said, "We are going to push back on the Soviet Union because they're communists, and we're not going to do this faux pushback. We're going to push back on the Soviet Union itself."
Yeah.
The biggest purveyor of communism in the world that we have right now. And we're going to get them out of Europe.
Next to China. And I really do believe that as we look at Mayorkas and what he's not doing his job, I mean, because if you look at all it takes, when Susan was the one that had me zoom in on some of the big stack of bills that Biden signed when he got into office. Now he made sure he took out every single one of the everything that would keep communists out of our country. He signed. He went against Trump on it, and all it would take is for him to pick up the pen, and he could close the border, but tomorrow. But see, he won't. And when you start looking into the reasoning behind it, is the amount of not only Chinese but terrorists that are flooding into our country, and them basically with the crime rate, they're letting them get away with what they want, and eventually going to bring in their own police. Because look at what they're doing at the border, William. Governor Abbott, he said, nope, we're going to close our border down. And then Biden says, I'm going to send the military down there to take care of you. And they get down there and they're all shaking hands and they're brotherly love, So,
we know that we have at least 300 known got away straight up terrorists in the United States.
Yeah.
People have been engaged in terrorism before they came here in the Middle East, right? Hardcore Al Qaeda or Wahhabi or whichever, right? Whichever denomination, even terrorists out of Afghanistan, they're in the United States. So it's not, is there going to be a terrorist attack in the United States at this point? It's not a is there, it's a when is it going to happen. It's just a matter of time. So we've got a ticking time bomb within the United States. We've got a ticking time bomb outside the United States in the Middle East.
Yeah. And then, William, we're looking at so many Chinese police departments popping up. They're getting farms right next to military installation. How easy would it be for a couple thousand on a farm? It looks like they're farming to surround a base. It's communism moving into America.
Can a base security police and law enforcement stop a large scale raid on a munitions depot?
Oh yeah. I think that's why they're bringing more and more and more and more in, is so that they have got an army against our army, their military against our military. And I can't say when. I don't know when. Just everybody needs to be vigilant and start watching. But we have got to start getting these Democrats out of office. They are just, I don't want to call them idiots. I just want to say they have an agenda, a very dark agenda.
We have a bunch of people whose main focus is Europe rather than the United States. Okay, we have them in the CIA, we have them in the FBI. They're more interested in Interpol than they are our local sheriffs, right? They see the American people as the major threat, when at the same time we have the Russian-Ukraine border, the Middle East, or Asia that could explode in our face at any time, and not only have to fight those fronts at the same time there, but have to fight their people here. Mm-hmm. So not just 2 or 3 front war, but it could be a 6 front war. The United States is designed to fight 2 major wars at one time, and then it was like a major war and a regional war.
Yeah.
Depending on the presidency. 6 fronts, that's a whole new ball game.
Yeah.
And if that all happens, what happens when you've got one party that's willing to go to civil war against the other party?
That's right. That's right. But I think it's dwindling down.
That's not awful.
When we seen, I seen a poll the other day, and I had to laugh because it was on NBC, and it said the Democrat support for Joe Biden to run as president in 2024 is 30%. 30% of the Democrat Party are thinking on voting for him. That's down. And then they want to say, oh, he's got 54% against Trump. Well, no, if they've lost 70% of their party, then this is where I hate the polls, because who's lying, who's not. And even Chris said about the machines being rigged. I got to watch how we get. There's YouTube is a stickler on that, Chris. All I have to say is there is both sides that have to have a chance to see when they start unloading this stuff. Unfortunately, the Republican and the GOP got pushed out in 2020. Now they have all new laws and rules that they have pushed through with resolutions since then, and it looks like it's going to be 50-50. So unless we have rhinos. Anyway, William, do you have anything left to say
Yeah, we started out this, in 2016 with this battle between the Republicans and the Democrats. But as all this information is flooded out as these two contestants fought against each other, we're starting to have actually two different political parties. We have the Globalist Party and we have the Nationalist Party.
Mm-hmm.
And
the Green Party.
They're everywhere in the two parties.
Independents.
We just have to watch by vote what they want.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have a problem personally sending money to Ukraine. Russia invaded Ukraine. They broke a rule of the Western world order. A large country doesn't have the right to invade a small country without cause. A little border squabble isn't cause. Sure, run your police action, that's fine. Nobody had a problem with that, right? But when they tried to invade the entirety of Ukraine, now we've got a serious situation. That was Putin's big mistake. He shouldn't have done it.
Yeah.
He really killed his own argument by doing that. Now, at the same time, we have folks that think we can use this problem that's happened in Ukraine to bleed out the U.S. stockpile. Hey, that's a great idea. Let's do that. Well, if you're in, I don't know, some place like Liechtenstein or Austria or Belgium, that might be a really great idea, right? Except for it's not a really great idea for the people living in the United States to get, weakened to the point they can be wiped out. This is all pretty sad stuff. We have power brokers all over the world. So we basically have two super power blocks now that Russia and China are working together.
Yeah.
Before that, we had three superpowers, United States, China, and Russia. Now we've got two superpowers again because Russia and China have aligned. But anytime a superpower stands back, like what Joe Biden's done, the other superpower has to step into that vacuum. They don't have a choice. If they don't step into that vacuum, there'll be regional squabbles that'll break out and start to destroy things on their borders. So they have to. Nothing in this world goes on politically and economically that doesn't get retaliated against or pushed back at. There's a global balance of power, and everybody's vying their interests. So yeah, it's tough. We have to keep in mind that this is all about global power dynamics.
Yes.
The leaders of these countries are warlords first and governors second.
Mm-hmm. Okay, folks. We're at the hour, and we want you to subscribe and share and invite your friends and family to watch our show. And of course, we mentioned trivia on Friday. I'm doing probably every other day, and I'm getting ready for all my pre-surgery tests, and thank everyone for the prayers. Okay, William, with that, we will call it a night, and subscribe and share, folks. And we thank those watching and bringing others in, and our new viewers. All right, William, with that, you have a great evening, sir.
Thanks for the opportunity, Elly.
All right. Good night, folks.